On the weight loss journey, you're likely going to have times when your plan dies. And when that happens, I've found postmortems are very useful. So a postmortem is a medical examination that helps a person determine why a thing died. And I found this really helpful on the weight loss journey because there are a lot of challenges that you are going to face when you're trying to lose weight. And so what can happen sometimes is, you're going along just fine, your plan is working, you're losing weight, and then something happens, you get off plan, and then it's really hard to get back on plan, and you start maybe gaining weight, and it's hard to figure out what's going on. And other times the plan is just failing. You're sticking with it, but it's just failing. And in both of those cases, it's helpful to run a postmortem. So what I found for myself was that I tended to have an all or nothing mindset when it came to weight loss. And so how this played out was, I would be going along on a plan, and as soon as the plan didn't work, and maybe I failed at the plan somehow, or maybe the plan failed me, I just couldn't lose weight, I would tend to just throw that plan out altogether and move on to the next thing. But once I changed my mindset into really examining what was going on, running these postmortems, figuring out why this plan is dying, then I was able to make better changes. And what I found was many times, even though I thought the plan was dead, what was actually happening was there were just some minor tweaks that needed to be made. Now, the biggest example in my journey is that I wrote off intermittent fasting in the middle of 2015. At that point, I had lost some weight with intermittent fasting, but I just got frustrated with it, and I just wrote it off. I said, it doesn't work. I've got to figure out something else. And that's really funny to me in hindsight because I ended up losing 80 pounds with intermittent fasting. It just took me going through the process of really assessing what had gone wrong with intermittent fasting and how I could make it a little bit better. So let me take you through the process of one of the postmortems I ran that was very helpful on this journey. So over the course of time, I found that I really liked intermittent fasting and that it was, something I felt like I could stick with. And actually I was really good at sticking with it until Sunday. And Sunday was the day that my husband would make homemade pancakes for me and the kids. Now, what I would tell myself all week long was, okay, on Sunday, I'm not going to eat any pancakes, and I'm just going to sit there and have some coffee. And sure enough, though, on Sunday, I would end up eating. I would eat the breakfast, and then I'd end up, just kind of having the rest of the day be like a normal kind of eating day. Like I wouldn't do any kind of intermittent fasting. And then what would happen on Monday is I would kind of think, well, I didn't really stick with it yesterday, so I wouldn't really do it that day either. And eventually maybe I would get back to it later on in the week. But then, come Sunday again, I would be facing the same problem. And it was just this repeating pattern. And when I really looked at this situation, what I realized was intermittent fasting wasn't really the problem. I could be consistent with it and I enjoyed it, but just not in certain circumstances. What I found is helpful when you're running postmortem is to first figure out exactly what's going wrong. As specifically as you can, figure out what's going on. Try to keep away from vague generalities like intermittent fasting doesn't work in my life or, whatever it is. Just, focus down on what's actually happening. And for me, it was, I keep eating on Sunday because we have pancakes. And I just want to say it's really helpful to write these things down. It's easy to want to just do this in your head, but what I found is when I try to keep stuff in my head, I end up being vague and I don't really get clarity on things. But if I write it down, it's in black and white and it's easier to examine and it's easier to kind of check yourself to make sure that you're being honest and you're really getting some clarity. So after you figure out what the problem actually is, the specific problem, it's helpful to ask yourself, why? Why is this happening? And when you're answering the why, be really careful not to blame other people. So to go back to the pancake story, when I was sitting there trying to figure out, how can I solve this problem? I asked myself, why am I doing this? Why am I eating? And what I realized was it really wasn't about self-control. In that moment, quite frankly, I didn't feel the overwhelming urge to just gorge myself on pancakes. But I did want to eat the pancakes. I wanted to be a part of the pancake breakfast. I did not want that to leave my life. I felt it was important. It's a thing that we do with our kids. My kids will look back on this with fondness, and so will I. And I wanted it to be in my life. And when I got really honest with myself about that, it was really helpful. But see, the tricky part is in the beginning, in my mind, what I was kind of doing was blaming my husband. He keeps making those pancakes. But what was really the problem was not that he was making the pancakes. It was just that I wanted those pancakes too, and I wanted that to be a part of my plan, and I just hadn't figured out how to implement those two things. So once I was able to name the problem and to figure out why it was happening, the last thing was just to try to figure out a solution. And the thing about figuring out a solution is trial and error. You may guess wrong. The solution I came up with for myself was, I'm just gonna try taking the day off completely on Sunday. Like I'm not gonna ask myself to do any intermittent fasting on that day. And Monday through Saturday, I'm gonna be intermittent fasting, but Sundays are my day off, my cheat day, whatever you wanna call it. I'm just not gonna do intermittent fasting. Now to me, that felt like a big risk because I thought if I let myself have the day off on Sunday, man, am I gonna be able to get back on plan on Monday or am I gonna lose all of my progress that I made through the week from that one day? But what I found was that solution worked really well in my life because what I found was having that Sunday off gave me the motivation really to just Monday through Saturday be very consistent. And even though I was taking that one day off and I was having to get back on plan on Monday, it just felt easy. So I would encourage you, no matter what problem you find yourself facing, don't worry too much about what other people are doing or what other people have said. Just figure out what will work in your life. Our lives are so different and there's so many variables that really you're the expert on your own life. Nobody else is. So just figure out something that you could try that you think might work and then implement it. And then if that doesn't work, then, go back to the drawing board, sit down again and figure out what the problem is and, ask yourself, why is this happening? And then, try a solution and see how it works. And that's the thing about the weight loss journey. It's part science and it's also part art and creativity. There are some objective truths. If you're gaining weight, you're eating too much. I mean, that is a simple truth. But on the other hand, art comes into it because you have to figure out, okay, I'm eating too much, but how do I get myself to eat less? Like, why am I doing these things? Like, I have this goal, but why is it that this is not working? And it takes some detective work and it takes trial and error. It's kind of messy, but if you can just continue to tell yourself that you will figure this out, as long as you just keep at it and keep experimenting, you will figure out what works for you. I think you'll find that it's easier to stay motivated on the weight loss journey. And what I found is with most postmortems, it just uncovers that there's a small little tweak that needs to be made, nothing too major. But on the other hand, I've had a few times where I've run a postmortem and I've just thrown out the plan completely. For me, that was counting calories. I was weighing and measuring all my food. And eventually I said, I am so resentful of all this. I'm just not going to do it anymore. And I just completely threw that plan away. And then I tried something else. So right now, if you're having trouble losing weight, I would encourage you to take a look at your plan and run a postmortem, see what the problem is, and try to implement a solution that you think will fix it. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.